How many requests do you make every day? I'm guessing a lot. We are always asking people to do things for us. And in a lot of situations, you're more likely to get a positive yes from the other person when you ask extra politely. People appreciate being asked nicely. So I've created this video for you to learn some techniques and strategies for your English so that next time you're asking a colleague, a client, or anybody to do something for you, you get what you want. Let's see how. Now, I don't know about you, but I hate it when somebody suddenly approaches me and immediately asks me for something. It's typical, it's conventional, it's polite to set up your request, to prepare it and structure it in a way that is more appreciated by the other person. Now, here I'm gonna explain to you how to do that in a very typical way in English speaking culture. The first thing I would suggest doing is asking permission to ask a question. You go to somebody and you say, "Hi, can I ask you something?" After that, a very typical thing to do is to give a reason or a justification for asking this request. It's almost like you're being forced. You don't want to ask them to do something, but circumstances are making you. For example, saying something like, "I have a medical appointment on Friday." And after that, you can finally really ask them what you came for. You're gonna ask the real request. So maybe it would be something like, "Can you lead the meeting on Friday instead of me?" Let's just recap that again. Asking permission. "Can I ask you something?" Giving a reason. "I have a medical appointment on Friday." And making the request. "Can you lead the meeting on Friday instead of me?" We're not exactly, I don't want to say manipulating the other person, but you're definitely influencing the circumstances, creating a nice atmosphere that probably will work in your favor. Let me tell you a very specific linguistic technique you can use to make an extra polite request. That is using the past. So, for example, you make a normal request when you ask your colleague a question like, "Can you cover me on Saturday?" This is a perfectly acceptable question to ask somebody. You are not being rude, don't worry. But, I mean, covering somebody on a Saturday, you're gonna want to be extra polite. You're really asking that person nicely, right? So a technique here is changing that request and using an expression like, "I was hoping you could cover me on Saturday." This has a very nice effect here of creating distance between you and the request. And that's basically the secret to being extra polite in English. Another example would be if you wanted to ask somebody, "Can you finish this task before this afternoon?" Great sentence, no problem. But we're gonna change that to be extra polite. Try using an expression like, "I was wondering if you could finish the task before this afternoon." And again, same thing. We're using the past tense. We're not talking about the past, but it's a strategy that you can use with your English that really does help you to sound less pushy. You sound a lot more nice, basically. And that can really help you in the right situation. Now, we all have situations in life where we need to make requests to people who are, shall we say, sensitive. So people who maybe easily feel attacked, or they feel like they're being asked too much, and you have to be careful in the way that you phrase your request. I recommend using this technique for situations like that, and that is using softening words. So these are when you add particular words into your request, into your sentence, that cushion the real request, and it really just calms down the whole situation, and it's very, very non-confrontational. This is using words like a bit, a few, a little, maybe, just, probably, possibly. An example, if you wanted to ask your colleague in a normal way, can you clarify the details in a while? That's great, but if you're wanting to ask in this extra careful way, then you can introduce these words and say something like, can you clarify a few of those details in a little while? And it really reduces any stress, reduces any tension. So our mantra for making extra polite requests in English is distance, distance, distance. When you speak hypothetically and use lots of conditionals, you are achieving exactly that. So hypotheticals, conditionals, you're going to be using words like if, would, could. An example would be, I would be grateful if you could extend the deadline. I would appreciate an update on this as soon as possible. Would it be possible to expand the budget? It definitely does create a kind of linguistic space between you and your request. So it's pretty helpful for making extra polite requests. A really good tool that you can use to adapt your language and sound super extra polite when making a request is changing your question from a direct question into an indirect question. So you have a direct, normal question, for example, where is the report? And it changes in an indirect way to become, could you tell me where the report is? A lot longer, the second option, right? Another example would be, instead of saying, who is the leader of this team? You would say, can you remind me who the leader of this team is? So first, we start our indirect question with an expression like, can you tell me? Or could you remind me? There's a lot of different ones you can use, but those are just some examples. Next, we follow this with a word like where, or who, or when, how, why, how many, how long. And after that, you complete the sentence following a normal sentence structure. So it's not a question that you're making in the last part, because you already made a question at the beginning when you said, could you tell me, right? That part is a question. So you're going to say, could you tell me where the report is? Not, could you tell me where is the report? Not that one. Okay, just the normal sentence structure for the last part. One more time. Could you tell me where the report is? Or, for example, can you remind me who the leader of this team is? Now, not every question has words like where, when, why, who. Sometimes it's just a yes or a no question. An example would be, can you extend the deadline? Okay, so we'll start with an expression like, can you let me know? Then we say, if, and then we use a normal sentence to finish it off. You can extend the deadline. Can you tell me if you can extend the deadline? So that's how to make indirect questions, and it might seem a little bit complicated, and it is a very long way to express something that could be said a much faster way. But as I keep on saying, the way to sound extra polite in English is to create this barrier between you and your request. So this is a great way to do that. Awesome. So let's see all the tools and techniques that you now know when you want to be extra polite in your requests. We said, first of all, that you're gonna structure your question, prepare the question in a really nice way. You're gonna do things like ask permission to ask a question, give a justification of why you're asking before finally making the request. You're gonna use other linguistic techniques like making your request in the past tense, like using softening words sprinkled into your sentence, like making hypothetical conditionals, and making your question indirect. For sure, if you apply any of these techniques, you are gonna show that you are making an extra step to be extra polite, and in my opinion, that can really help you get what you want. That's everything for now. I hope you found this useful. I hope you have learned. I hope you continue learning. And for now, have a great day. I hope it's an extra polite one.